Good evening. Welcome in on whatever day it is, at whatever time it is, because I'm going to be honest, I have no idea anymore. To Power Mizzou Live, Gabe DeArmond here, publisher of Power Mizzou. We're going to bring in Jarod Hamilton in a minute, as well as Austin Ward, who covers Ohio State for Rivals. We'll bring those guys in, talk a little bit about the matchup, which is now a week and a day away. Exactly, actually, 8 days away down in Dallas. But first, want to let you guys know that as a lot of our stuff all season long, our game day stuff has been brought to you by the fine folks at Yingling. Our coverage leading up to and through the bowl game next Friday down in Dallas, brought to you by Yingling Lager, America's oldest brewery. I can firsthand tell you they make fine products. I should have worn, I may do it for the live show for the bowl game next week. Should have worn the beautiful, ugly Christmas sweater that Yingling sent me in celebration. Got that earlier in the week. It's the first Christmas present I received. So encourage you guys all to try that. And it is for sale in Dallas. It is for sale at the Power Mizzou event that we are having. If you are a subscriber, you know about it. If you are not a subscriber, you need to subscribe to find out about it. That's how we make people pay. So going to bring in our guest now. That's Jarod Hamilton. You know him. Bottom of the screen, Austin Ward from dottingtheis.com, covers Ohio State for the Rivals Network. You guys might not know him, but you'll know him very well in the next 15, 20 minutes. Austin, appreciate you joining us, man. We were just talking in our 30-second pre-show meeting. There is a football game next Friday. Nobody down here seems to have thought about it a lot. I don't know if it's any different in Columbus.
It's getting to that point, Gabe. A little bit more excitement the closer that you get to the Cotton Bowl. It's just as you guys know. I mean, this month is bonkers the way that the calendar works out, and I think Missouri probably, if I had to guess, they're the team that everyone thinks has more motivation going into this game. Ohio State lost to its rival in the last week of the regular season. It fell out of the college football playoff race. It did not win the Big Ten, and that's a pretty big deflation in Columbus. But and certainly for a week, it's talking about coaching staffs and making moves on that, even for just one loss. I mean, it seems 11-1. They're very good. But then there's 14 players that go in the transfer portal. People trying to figure out why that is. It's simple math, but putting narratives on it, tying it to the loss. You have recruiting class that you're trying to finish off, NIL, NFL decisions for Ohio State. And it's like, by the way, they play a game that they do actually want to win. They're getting a lot of opt-ins to this game and not opt-outs the way people thought, Gabe. So I think as time goes on, those wounds have healed a bit for the Buckeyes. They will never be perfect until they win again. They've lost 3 straight to Michigan, but they do have an opportunity to end on a high note. And sometimes that can be just lip service, but I do think that Ohio State tends to, when they get to this point in December, they want to win a game, and they'll give Missouri their best.
Austin, how is this, I guess, different from years past when they are playing, in the college football playoffs? Like we said, the Cotton Bowl kind of in the background for everybody, but when Ohio State is usually in the college football playoffs, how is the fan base typically reacting to all this other stuff that goes on top of usually playing in one of the big games or the big games?
Yeah, I mean, a year ago, they were very nearly in the same situation before they got help to go to the college football playoff, and we had a lot of these same conversations, but then they got a reprieve on Selection Sunday, and suddenly all the rest didn't matter. Guys weren't going to jump into the transfer portal the first day that it was open. They weren't, CJ Stroud was getting ready to play another game, and he would have almost certainly opted out had they had to go elsewhere and not be in the Peach Bowl last year. Signing day, hey, whatever, it's a bonus. Everything else feels great when you're in the college football playoff. So this is, they're not always in it. 2 years ago, they were in the Rose Bowl. They had Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Haskell Garrett opt out of that game, and they were banged up and really shorthanded. And everybody spent that month saying, well, it's an exhibition game. It doesn't matter. But then you get to the week of, or they fell behind by a couple touchdowns early, and it's like, oh, no, here's the panic button again, because Ohio State and its fan base, the standards are always so high. Anytime they step on the field, they're expected to play like the Silver Bullets. So, it's been a weird month, Jarod. there's so much going on, but I do think now it's at this point where Jack Sawyer, Ohio State's defensive end, he's got an NFL draft decision. He opted into this game. I think he's probably coming back, which is why he's going to play in the Cotton Bowl. And he was like, pardon my French, but like it's nonsense, a different word, that you guys that this is an exhibition or that we don't care about this game. So that they do. It's just like a different vibe because there's no possibility of anything beyond that. And that's difficult because that's Ohio State. That's how it measures itself. And a Cotton Bowl trophy is not going to replace a Big Ten or a national championship.
I want to invite you guys that are watching live, but we've got a couple questions for Austin. And if you have things you want us to ask Austin, certainly put those in the comment section. We'll get to them about Ohio State. I think the place we got to start is, Marvin Harrison, fourth place in the Heisman, all that. We know about a lot of Ohio State's players. Do you know what he's going to do as far as the Cotton Bowl? I mean, I know he said, like, hey, maybe I'll come back. I don't think anybody sane believes that, but
right.
Do you know what he's going to do for the Cotton Bowl, and how different is it if he's not playing?
In his heart, Marvin Harrison Jr. wants to play a week from Friday. If he does, someone has given him the worst advice in the history of college football.
Okay, let me jump in there because I agree with you. Like I told you, somebody should put him in an asylum.
Yeah.
Same token, Marvin Harrison could tear his ACL in that game, and he is still a top 10 NFL draft pick. Jamison Williams was a year ago.
Now you're talking like Berm. He said the same thing to me on Monday that my colleague
it's true.
I think so too.
It is true that if that is the injury, he would remain a top 10 pick. But it's a $35 million call. The injury could be worse. And I know that that's not how any of these guys live their life, and they shouldn't. They put their bodies on the line all year long. And I certainly understand anyone. If Marvin wants to play, like, go do it. Like, that's his life. That's his choice. If he's never going to get it back, I get it. I think it's unlikely that he plays. And part of this will be influenced, and maybe he'll, I've talked to him a couple times about it. I'm not trying to, blow up his spot. And I don't know for sure what he will decide. But I know that in talking about him about other situations, 2 years ago in the Rose Bowl, when Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson do not play, Marvin, I think, came into that game with 4 or 5 catches for the season. And he left the Rose Bowl with 3 touchdowns. The opportunity came his way. He exploded on the scene. It was a catapult into that breakout season for him in 2022. So I'm not saying that's going to trump anything else, but I know that when he has said, I'm going to be at the Cotton Bowl, it's because he wants to continue to work on his game and be around guys and get Carnell Tate or Brandon Ennis ready for an opportunity the way that he did 2 years ago. And I don't know. He said he was undecided, and I told him, fine, I will take you at your word. If you haven't decided, that's all I can do. I can't say, well, you're lying. I can't say you shouldn't play. Like, that's his decision. But I don't expect next Friday that he will. And I honestly believe in the spot he's in, where he's potentially the first position player off the draft board, that's too much of a risk for me.
Austin, does Ryan Day kind of have maybe a timetable or something? I know, both teams are starting to practice and stuff like that. I mean, he's got to get a game plan in. And even if I guess Marvin would be the exception if just the day before he wanted to play. But is there a timetable for players like him and Stover and some of the other guys to say if they're playing or not?
Yeah, I think Kate Stover's situation will probably be more injury related and not draft stock related. He's done what he can do, and I don't know that he came back. He was dealing with that stuff. He had a wrist and a knee injury and some surgery in the middle of the season. I think it's probably best for him physically to not play again, as much as he might want to. The way Ohio State handled this 2 years ago when they had those handful of opt-outs, they had practices. They're up to this point. They went home on Tuesday to their families, and they're basically like training camp practices, more fundamental rather than full game plan for Missouri. And generally, like, a lot of those veterans don't have to be full participants. Like Marvin was not. The way Ryan Day described it with JT Tuimoloau and Travion Henderson's like going to let those guys do their own thing while they make their NFL draft decisions, their opt-in or out decisions. And then, you ramp up. When they got to LA 2 years ago, and like, all right, here's a practice. This is a game week now. We're into a traditional Sunday. Let's make this call. If you are healthy enough to play in the game and you're gonna play in the game, then let's practice. So I think that we'll get a much better idea of that on Tuesday. I think we have a pretty good idea of it because so many of these guys, like way more than I expected, said we want to play in the Cotton Bowl. It is important. Doesn't necessarily mean definitely coming back for 2024, but we want to end on a high note. We want to be together. And I do think most of these guys are in position to come back in 2024, but the volume of guys that are actually suiting up, you saw how quickly the line changed earlier in the month for this game. Like it's starting to come back a little bit the other way as more guys have said, you know what, this season's not over for Ohio State.
This game is a gambler's dream. If you were smart, you got Missouri plus 6.5 at the start. Then they were a 2-point favorite, and you go, yeah, I'll take Ohio State there. And if you can get Missouri to win this game by like a field goal or something, you're in perfect shape. Want to get in a couple of our super chat questions real quick so we don't keep you all night. First of all, Jeff brings up a good point. 33 is an ugly number for a quarterback. Missouri's backup, Sam Horn, wears 21. I wish this game was next year and it could be 21 versus 33. That'd be great. But like that's the one position, no matter who plays, what we know is that, you know, Kyle McCord isn't playing. So I'm going to kind of two-part Jeff's question. From outside Columbus, everybody goes, what the hell? He just went 11-1. What happened there? And then second, what do you know about Devin Brown? He played 75 snaps?
He did. And, you know, he shot up the national rankings during his senior year in high school. Some services had him as the best quarterback in the country, 5-star. You know, the Rivals ranking was not quite that high, but still a very high 4-star, low 5-star in the minds of most people. And he came in with a reputation as being a real dual threat quarterback, and he will run. Ohio State is willing to run him more than it did Kyle McCord. He's not. If you look at Ohio State's roster, like Lincoln Kienholz, who would be the most likely backup in this game, the true freshman, he's got a little more of the like 4-sport, straight line speed and that sort of stuff. Devin Brown's adding more muscle and strength. He's got the ability to extend plays in the pocket, get out of it, get creative. And the way Ohio State was using him before he got hurt midseason was they were letting him operate some of the red zone package, and it was more quarterback counter, a few option looks and things like that. But that was what they were trying to incorporate there. Some things that, you know, they felt he was in better position to operate than maybe Kyle McCord was. In camp, it didn't seem like there was a huge difference between like measurable straight line speed. You know, they joked about who could jump higher and those things. They felt like they were more similar than dissimilar. It doesn't mean that they're the exact same or that Devin Brown is not faster or potentially more powerful as a runner than Kyle McCord, because that does seem to be the case in the way that Ohio State would like to use him. The 33 to I think, was that Jeff? It's ugly on a quarterback. Yeah, no doubt. Nobody in Columbus likes it on him except for Devin Brown. He pays tribute to Sammy Baugh. He's got a bolo tie that's got, you know, the 33 on it. He loves it. He said he's not got any interest in changing it. But so that's the situation there with Devin Brown. We have not seen a full go version of him since the middle of October. He had a pretty severe high ankle sprain. So just getting back into camp and with this opportunity to start the Cotton Bowl, it's going to be new for a lot of us to see and evaluate. It's going to be critical now with Kyle McCord not there to see what it means for Devin Brown heading into 2024. Because as you mentioned, Gabe, you know, the starting quarterback went 11-1. He wanted a guarantee. He went 11-1 and he was one block away potentially. It's missed the last play. Marvin Harrison is open behind coverage. If he has half a second more to throw, Kyle McCord might be 12-0, and you guys might not be talking to me today. But instead, he gets hit. The pass is intercepted against Michigan. He wants an assurance that he's definitely going to be the starter in 2024. And Ryan Day says, well, we got Devin Brown and Lincoln Kienholz and 5-star Aaron Nolan on the way. I think we'd rather you're going to have to compete again. And that wasn't a situation. And I understand Kyle McCord's part of that he felt like he earned it. And I also understand Ryan Day's part that you got these other quarterbacks that he wants to look at. So I know that you guys have other things to talk about on this show, but the Ohio State quarterback situation, that's just like a 10-hour show by itself.
Well, right. And Kyle McCord's reward is enjoy second semester in Syracuse, kid.
Yeah. My wife went to Syracuse, so she's, probably she can pass along some tips, some dinosaur barbecue up there or whatever, but it's not the same as Columbus.
Buy a winter coat is the tip.
Yeah, that's right.
Defensively, I know I've been asked some questions like how legit is Ohio State's defense just based off the schedule that they play. I know I was looking up something last week that they held Penn State to 1-16 on third downs or something like that during that game. So, how much of it is like this team is legit? Because I think they are, but how much of it is kind of strength of schedule is not necessarily the greatest in the Big Ten sometimes.
Yeah, I wouldn't pretend like Ohio State played a murderer's row of offenses this year. We know that what some of the reputation is for these teams in the Big Ten and the style of play that they like to go with. And Penn State, even one of their signature games that you mentioned, Jarod, they held them. It was 0 for their first 15. That they really put that game away, and Ohio State choked the life out of Penn State. And really, like there would have been a lot of encouraging moments for Penn State, and Drew Aller's going to be the guy that he's an Ohio native. He's going to be the quarterback that leads them back to prominence. And Ohio State had none of that. And that game was really never close because of how dominant that defense was. We watch them every week. We nitpick a little bit. This week, the linebackers, seems like the eye discipline wasn't quite there. They went through a stretch in the middle of the year. They gave up they gave up more rushing yards than maybe we anticipated at Notre Dame. But they gave up 2 touchdowns in the game, and the defense there were missed opportunities on offense. They would have blown out Notre Dame. They wound up obviously giving up more points and 4 consecutive scoring drives in the second half in the Big House against Michigan. But they got the stops late and still gave Ohio State a chance to win on offense on that final drive. Those are obviously the most meaningful ones that you can look at. They played some good quarterbacks early in the year, like. Western Kentucky's not really going to get anybody excited, but they saw some NFL talent on there at quarterback and wide receiver. The secondary is really, really good. Tommy Eichenberg is an all-American linebacker. He's as rugged as a tackler as you're going to find. And you've got twin 5-stars at defensive end and Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau thinking about their NFL futures. Got Tyleik Williams at defensive tackle. He's also played himself into maybe the second or third round, depending on what he wants to do at all 3 levels. There are NFL players. And I think there was, Jarod, a pretty noticeable jump up because you could make a case 2022 first year of Jim Knowles statistically dramatically improved, but we know what happened in their biggest games. And they came up short late against Michigan and late against Georgia. You didn't really see a lot of those breakdowns. You saw more variety and familiarity as well with a second-year staff and a lot of guys in their second year working with him. This is a really good defense, and the statistics prove it out. The eye test does too. We'll see what that means next week against Missouri. And as you guys know, an offense that is going to pose a lot of problems. Burden and Jordan Hancock matching up on the perimeter. I can't wait to watch it. That could inform another NFL decision or two. So that part's going to be fun, but. Ohio State got a lot of these opt-in situations on defense, and that I think might change the picture a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to see Luther against the Ohio State secondary, and just selfishly, I'd love to see Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka against Ennis Rakestraw and Chris Abrams-Strain, who are NFL draft picks. So I think that'd be the fun matchup to watch. But I'm trying to think of the nice way to say this. We deal with the people who may not be exactly representative of the larger fan base on a day-to-day basis because they know more and they care more. I'm curious what the general, obviously Ohio State wanted to be in the playoffs, so any game's a little bit disappointing. But once this matchup came up, do you get the sense that Ohio State fans are going, hang on, I didn't even know Missouri was in the top 10, or hey, good, we're not playing Liberty like we're playing an SEC team. What's the general attitude? Not just of, the players are obviously saying the right things, but the fan base and the program approach in this one.
I'll have to start by saying they did not do backflips to see Missouri as the opponent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's to your point, Gabe. I mean, I cover this for a living, and I knew, like, when was that game? First or second weekend in November at Georgia. Like, maybe it was earlier than that. It's like, it's a huge game. Like, how did Missouri get into the top 10? I don't know. I haven't watched them play all year. I have to admit myself that was surprised by that ascendance. I mean, I know about Luther's talents and Ohio State.
Hey, so were we, honestly. We cover them, and we kind of were sitting there, hang on, man, they're in the top 10. What happened here?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some players on that roster that Ohio State fans know well from their recruitment. So, you know, they're aware of some of the skill players and the talent that they have there, but it wasn't like, well, who's a contender to sneak into the college football playoff from the SEC? Oh, it's Missouri. Oh, well, that's a significant way to end the year. That wasn't necessarily the way that they viewed it, because they were, once it became clear that Ohio State was not going to get the help that it needed to get back into the college football playoff, the true fear was going to the Orange Bowl and playing Florida State or Louisville and, like, having no interest in that game whatsoever. It's like, they were like, okay, now it's Saturday night. You're not going to get in. Here's the situation, but Georgia's out. Now you can go to the Cotton Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl. Maybe you'll play Oregon and get, you know, a matchup that Ohio State fans are familiar with and know that brand, and they don't like recruiting against Dan Lanning and all these other things. And then it's like, well, how did Missouri get in this? Well, they're number 9 in the country. This is a pretty good matchup. You can live with that. I don't think that, I mean, the ticket sales, Gabe, have been, I know for sure from people in the athletic department, this has been one of the lowest outputs to this point that Ohio State has ever had. They've been in the New Year's Six every single year that I've covered this program. It's astounding the consistency at the high level they've been in. And almost always there's an opportunity for Ohio State fans to bite their teeth into it and sink into it and say, it's one more game. They're going to play. I saved all year. I thought we were going to go to the playoff, but I'll go to Dallas and watch them play an SEC team. There hasn't been a ton of that. I bet there still will be once next Friday comes. There's so many Ohio State alums down in Dallas, down in Houston, around in Texas, that they'll still be able, I think, to get to that point. But they didn't say this is a great consolation prize. But I do,
right.
The player part
would
of that
there
is
have been
important.
a great consolation prize? I mean,
No.
Oregon, Georgia, would they have cared about that? They probably would have cared more. But
I think they would have talked themselves into a Georgia rematch. I think Oregon, I think, because that's become one of the new, you know, or not new, depending on your perspective, NIL thorns in the side, and Jeremiah McClellan, and we can both, you know, talk about that one getting away if we don't need to do that. I guess that was Wednesday's show, but you know, I think those would have been ones. They played them in playoff games, national championship game. They would have. Some of this is just new. Like Ohio State and Missouri don't play much in anything, so it's a new experience, and I think maybe that part will be kind of cool because it's a different look at it. And you know,
the last time they played, I was a senior in college, actually, and I was at the game in Columbus. And the year before, I was at the game in Columbia when Andy Katzenmoyer, like, legitimately beheaded Corby Jones, I think, on the field. So
he's got a tendency to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Gabe, you know, when that game happened, I was not born yet.
You weren't quite around yet. We don't need to talk about that.
My last question for Austin is, in your mind, who do you think, I don't want to say needs this game more, but Ryan Day or Missouri? And I specifically say Ryan Day just because of, you know, how it goes with losing to Michigan, even though he's been 11. Yeah, Jared's question. Who needs it, you know, the most?
He's sneaking in a little shot there with Jim Harbaugh.
Had to get the dig in, but he paid $5, so we allow the this is your show. You got and look, Eli took a shot already at Michigan, so I think everybody's balanced out here. So it's no big deal. You just want to be careful because it does get Ryan Day pretty fired up when those suggestions are made for him. So don't give him any extra firepower for this game. Who needs it more? I'm not sure, Jarod. I think my expectation on Selection Sunday was Missouri will want it more. Let me change it. How about who does it benefit more? Maybe not need, so to speak. Well, I think Ryan Day
does need it. This month has been a grind. I talked about the transfer portal, and like the math had to happen. Ohio State had been, I believe, second in the country and in retaining their roster. Like they had only had, a handful of players leave, so that the bill was coming due for that. But it became the loss to Michigan 3 straight, not winning the Big Ten 3 years in a row, 14 players in the transfer portal, including the starting quarterback, a starting wide receiver, and the top backup at running back. And then it was, are you going to get a quarterback in the portal? No, not messing with that. Are you going to make changes on the coaching staff? Like that's been his whole month. Like it's been, losing that game is bad enough in Columbus. Like one time. He's done it 3 in a row this month. And then the as I mentioned, the changes to the calendar was going to make it really bad. The way that they bounced back in the Rose Bowl and the explosion from Jackson Smith-Njigba and Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka in that game helped erase a lot of that conversation and bring some excitement back into the 2022 year for them. That's, I think, the goal here for Ryan Day, and it's why you won't ever hear him say this is an exhibition game. I've said it, but that's not the way Ohio State feels. And they're trying to bottle up some of that stuff from 2 years ago. So how does it propel Missouri? Does it help them in recruiting or battling in the SEC? Does it plant a flag for them? I mean, maybe. You guys would know that way better than I would. But I can speak to what it would mean to Ryan Day. And because of comments like that, like he's not going to be able to stop the third base stuff. He's got to win the games. And he will not get a free pass just because anybody opts out or he doesn't have his quarterback in this game. He didn't 2 years ago. And that's why they celebrated a Rose Bowl win over Utah the way that they did. And if they beat Missouri next Friday night, I guarantee you there will be a lot of relief, maybe more than celebration, but they would really embrace that opportunity to close it with a trophy because it can be a springboard, but it also removes a lot of the conversation. You're not going off of a 2-game losing streak in the next year.
Well, and I joked Missouri had a basketball game the day of the announcement, like the announcement was at 1:30 or whatever, and the basketball game tipped at 2. I was talking to some people over there, and I said, like, I assume Ohio State's entire team is going to opt out unless Ryan Day goes to them and goes, guys, look, I am 50-7, and dudes are talking about firing me. I cannot lose to Missouri. You are playing this game, But I want to finish you up with this kind of different path. The Jackson Smith-Njigba thing in the Rose Bowl a couple years ago. Everybody knows that story. Missouri fans know plenty about. A couple years, well, it's been a few years now, but Georgia came to town and Todd Gurley got suspended on Friday night. Wasn't on the trip. Missouri fans start saying, "Oh, we can win this game. This is going to be great." Some dude named Nick Chubb came out and ran for 234 yards in his first.
Gabe, your mic.
I am dealing with a bad best. So if Ohio State is down some guys, who's a guy that we don't know that all of a sudden is the Jackson Smith-Njigba or the Nick Chubb of this game that you go, okay, they didn't have Marvin, but they had that guy.
Yeah, so they're in a similar situation, honestly, to the Rose Bowl from a couple years ago. And it's remarkable, Brian Hartline and Ryan Day, the way that they're able to stockpile some of this talent at quarterback and wide receiver. But they lost. You had Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, 2 first-round picks, not playing the Rose Bowl. You had Jackson and Marvin Emeka go absolutely off in that game and take over. The next ones up for Ohio State are right there, Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis. And I think for those of your readers at Power Mizzou who follow recruiting, they're very well aware of where those guys were in those national rankings coming out. And Ennis was, I think widely viewed as number 1 in that class. He barely played for Ohio State this year because of the depth they have at wide receiver. Carnell Tate was closer. He played more and with the opportunity because Julian Fleming is transferred out and Marvin Harrison may not play. Emeka has said he's going to play, but you got to put some other people around him. And I think, Carnell Tate and Marvin said this in spring and again in training camp. And people are like, are you sure that's what you want to say? And he's like, Carnell Tate is more advanced at his age compared to me than I was. He's ahead of the game. Now, he didn't wind up playing a Marvin amount of snaps. He didn't have that kind of impact in year 1, but that is how highly the players and the coaching staffs think of Carnell Tate. So those two guys will be next in line. They are, you look at the statistical breakdown from the box score, like you're not going to think there's anything to that, but that was the same case for Marvin going into that game 2 years ago. They'll play a lot in this game, and Devin Brown will have had an opportunity to throw to them a lot when he was healthy and getting reps with the twos. I would think there's going to be a good rapport. I don't know that, but that would be my bet, that he's going to be looking to some of those familiar faces and guys that he's thrown a lot to. Devin Brown, he fits into that as well. Like he's never started a game for Ohio State. He's saying it's a breakout. He knows he's calling it a top 10 game. It's in the Cotton Bowl. The backfield is going to be a little depleted for Ohio State. We don't know for sure if Travion Henderson is going to play. Brian Williams is hurt, and Chip Trayanum transferred, so that leaves one scholarship running back and then Devin Brown's legs. So that part's really interesting, but they've patched this stuff together. They've had a few weeks to do that, and we're pretty excited to cover that part of it because of what it means for the future for Ohio State, and I know that the players are invested in making the most out of it next week as well.
Well, Austin, we kept you about twice as long as I said. I appreciate it. We'll just leave you with this. This is the nicest thing anybody's ever said about somebody that covers another team. So congratulations, man. They like you. Okay.
I made it. Thanks for the compliment. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Appreciate you, man.
See ya.
Gabe.
That is Austin Ward from eyes.com. And guys, again, I'm dealing with a microphone cord that literally I'm holding here. I got to go to Best Buy tomorrow. So if my audio goes out or if it starts to sound weird, I apologize for that. So look, I think that was kind of what we expected, except saying it is one thing, doing it is another. But Jarod, what they're saying indicates that Ohio State is a little more in on this game than maybe I think we thought they would be 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, just that last answer Austin gave. That and what Drink said, was it yesterday? The days are running together.
2 days. Yes. Yeah.
Drink said, it's not STP no more. It's ST. It's showtime. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. You've been playing hard to show, something to prove. I'm not trying to be dismissive, but you know how tired we are here at STP. But he said it's it's showtime. So Missouri constantly, not want to show off, but they want to put something together. I think it's flipped. I think Ohio State, I think they have something to prove with some of these newer guys who are going to get the opportunity to play because these guys are playing for next year, and he just talked about Kyle McCord and how he wanted a guaranteed spot. Well, he left because of that essentially, and now Devin Brown understands the same thing though. They got a 5-star and they've got another kid on there who can play. I want to be able to show off and throw to these other 5-stars that I've been working with on the second team all year. So this isn't a game. I never thought it was completely a game where Ohio State didn't care because we just kept hearing like not as many opt-outs. But now that, Austin just said that, yeah, it seems like they've got there's a little bit more pride than maybe fans and media is giving it because of all the other stuff going around with signing day and all that stuff.
Right. And Devin Brown, this is a chance to get a leg up, right? To go into spring football as hey, you got to come catch me as the quarterback. And hey, NIL has changed some of this stuff. Some of these guys who might have gone pro 3 years ago, now, hey, maybe they'll come back. So, hey, yeah, got a game. Let's go ahead and play it. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll have plenty of time. Jarod is getting to Dallas morning of the 26th. Missouri will have an open practice, some sort of media availability that afternoon. So we're gonna come to you live on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday. I will do a post-game show if Jarod is able to jump back on for a few minutes after interviews and stuff in the Cotton Bowl. That's great, but bowl games last forever. He's going to have to catch a media shuttle. So I will be here after the game, but we will have shows.
Mike. Gabe.
Let's talk a little bit about stuff.
Still going.
Extensions for Blake. We don't know details on it yet.
Right.
I think it's safe to say that Blake Baker is going to be on staff next year because he tweeted the Wolf of Wall Street, I'm not effing leaving. GIF. So I think he's definitely Kirby Moore, I would assume, is staying because of an extension, but you also know contracts, hey, weird things happen. Which one of these is a bigger deal, do you think?
Kirby Moore, because, and it's hard. We saw when this team is defensively led, like last year, 6-6, and they had a lot of veterans coming back, but they were still 6-6. But the reason they're 10-2, a lot has to do because the offense, by a little bit, is the better side of the ball now. In my opinion, they've gotten better. The players in all phases and all position groups have improved, and that's where two of the All-Americans are. So, I mean, that's important that he got that. And plus, when you add in next year and some of the pieces they've got in, a lot of that excitement is because they got Kirby Moore and they're like, all right, we can do this, we can do that. So I say Kirby Moore's extension is probably better, but I think Blake Baker, like, maybe that's more of a surprise. If we thought one was leaving, I feel like it was Blake between the two. You didn't think so? His cord is messing up on him a little bit. I can't hear. Well, I'll just keep it going for a minute. So yeah, I think it was Kirby. Gabe's having a rough time.
Hey, I think I'm back. My
We're
computer completely froze up. Like I could hear nothing you said for the last 2 minutes.
Oh man, well, I told everybody.
I'm sure it was amazing.
Yeah,
like that didn't have anything to do with the microphone cable. My entire computer just froze up, and I was getting the spinny wheel.
Well, we saw you. I saw you, but yeah, it was. I said Kirby basically, just because the offense just did so much better. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we're turning this one into a podcast. I'm sure I sound awful now because I'm on the computer.
No. You sound fine. You sound
okay. Good. Well, good deal. But yeah, it's a good evening for technology. But I think I would agree it's Kirby. And here's why I think it's Kirby, because I don't think you want to go into next year with Brady in his final year learning a new system, learning new technology or terminology. I think like you want to build on this year and you want to do that with the same guy calling it. And I think it was pretty obvious. I know you're going to write about this next week, but man, when we talked to Brady on Tuesday, a couple questions about Kirby and he just lit up, man. And like almost had to say, he was like, it just gives you a layer between the quarterback and the head coach. He's like that. And not that that's, like he wanted to make sure he wasn't insulting Drinkwitz, but like, I think Kirby Moore was a big part of what Brady Cook did this year.
Yeah. I think Drink will understand having that buffer sometimes. And it doesn't even matter just, quarterback to head coach, like in any part of life, really. Sometimes it's good to have that buffer in between, to kind of filter some stuff through. And like he said, kind of get another perspective on things. And, it's one thing where you hear Drink and maybe some of the fan base getting on you and saying this is what you want to do. But when you get somebody coming from the outside in just saying, hey, man, I think this is what you do good or do well in. That's something you can fix or something like that. It's refreshing because, that person doesn't have, maybe a side or something or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I agree, Kirby.
So, how big is it? Like, I'm trying to figure out. Winning this game obviously is huge for Missouri.
Yep.
Would losing this game really change much for you? Would that change what the season was or do any damage?
No. The only thing, and it wouldn't be long, it may be just for the week or whatever, is if they come out flat and don't play hard, which I don't expect at all. But that, like, unless they do a total dud, no. I wrote today, or I had an article come out today just about the momentum this program has had since Williams Nwaneri's commitment. And so, to be honest, win, lose, or draw in this game, they've already exceeded expectations by a lot with just the regular season. Then you add on, the recruitment and just the last week of recruiting. like T-Rod says, nope, it's a no lose situation for us. I completely agree, because you win, you get to add all this other stuff. Plus, you got to win over Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. And let's be honest, in a few years, maybe even just 2 years from now, if Marvin Harrison doesn't play, you may say Marvin didn't play, but you're not going to remember everybody else who didn't play. Like, let's be honest. So you can say you got that win. That's the bonus. And if you lose, I mean, Ohio State has 5 stars coming off the bench. They've got talents, and they play big games every single year. So you're not losing anything.
I kind of agree with Ninja. He says it's a really good season versus a historic season. And like, nobody's going to knock Missouri if they lose this game. I think losing this game, what would hurt about it would be the opportunity that you missed, right? Because all that momentum you're talking about, like, it gets ratcheted up if you go into the offseason with a win. It doesn't go away, but it gets muted a little bit if you lose the last game of the year and you go in. I mean, 10-3, you're still going to be probably 11th, 12th in the country. Certainly a very good season, but it's not 11-2 and 6th in the country. Going back in with these transfers coming in to visit June 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and that range, or I'm sorry, January, not June. I don't even know what damn month it is anymore. So it wouldn't be a bad loss. It would just be what you're leaving on the table that I think would probably hurt a little bit if you do lose this game. Let's see. Jason brings up kind of what we've been talking about really so much for the last couple of weeks. Is the last time recruiting for football was so positive. I mean, it's been a while, no question. They now have the number 17 class in the country when you combine the transfers with the regular recruiting class. And Jarod, like, I already think they've addressed everything except defensive tackle that they had to address in the portal already. Don't you think?
Yeah. And maybe some things happen the next week or so or whatever to get those. But yeah, they've got some really good pieces. The recruiting class was really good. I mean, Drink basically said yesterday it seemed like he was saying it's a best available player situation. He said there's no position where we're just, I'm saying, speaking as if I'm Drink, that we're just so desperate to get. So, from Missouri. So they're in a good spot. And if they can just, kind of shore up that defensive tackle spot, then it's really just like, you see a guy, maybe he wants to come through, you try to get that guy. But other than that, you don't have to, a lot can change in a week. I'll say that. A lot can change in a week. So they're in a good spot.
Yeah. And like, I wouldn't use the word desperate, but they need at least one defensive tackle.
They definitely,
no question.
They definitely do. And I think based off how Drink was talking, he's confident that whoever that defense, they will get one or two or whatever he feels they need. But it seems like they're moved on kind of to the, we're going to get this person. What else can we get, basically, for more competition and more depth?
And what I thought was pretty interesting was when I asked him about Austin Dendy and Jude James yesterday. He said, we're going to go through spring football and see where we need them more. We're not going to pick a position for those guys and start them there. We're going to see what we need the most, which I think is an interesting way to do it and kind of gives you an idea. They feel pretty good about their depth. I think decisions that are going to be made, I don't know if they'll be made before or after the bowl game. We tried to ask Chris Abrams-Drain and Theo Weiss the other day about next year. Neither one took the bait. I think Theo comes back. Based on, kind of, I think he probably should. And based on what I've heard, I think he comes back. I would have to say, like, I would lean toward Chris Abrams-Drain going pro.
Yes. My thing is, so last year, I'm pretty sure he said he got like a 3rd round grade or something like that. And that doesn't necessarily mean
he said that. I mean,
now that doesn't necessarily mean he would have went in the 3rd round, so to speak. But I guess that's maybe his ceiling. Maybe that's how that works or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But after second team AP and, FWAA All-American selection, and the season he had, and he really cleaned up some things, and there wasn't a lot to clean up based off of last year, but, kind of clean some things up. I don't know. I don't know why he'd stay. Although if he did, him, Toriano Pride, Norwood, that's It's a hell of a cornerback group, but he doesn't really need to stay.
Yeah, Drinkwitz kind of talked yesterday, like made it sound like him and Ennis were both gone. I'm not sure that's true. Ennis Rakestraw, I don't expect back based on everything I've heard. I think he's ready to go take his shot. Nobody expects Tyrone Hopper back. Nobody expects Jalen Carlisle back. Joseph Charleston is the other one that seems to kind of be not sure what's. I mean, I don't know that he's an NFL draft pick. I would think he'd be back, but weird things happen. So I don't know. I don't know why he might be done playing football. He might want to go take his shot, but he's the other one that seems to kind of be up in the air a little bit.
Yeah. So what is he? Is he a 5th-year player right now? I feel like
I'd have to look it up. I can't get any of them straight anymore.
But I think he has one more year. I mean, he started all 12 games. 10 at strong safety, other 2 at free safety. I mean, they only have, if you count Christian Williams as a starter, because you know how the DT group goes, Christian Williams, Johnny Walker, and Dalen Carnell as the only returning starters off the top of my head. And we don't, and I'm not counting the ones we don't know or I'm not counting them.
Chuck Hicks, I mean, he was a starter.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I guess he's a starter, and if you want to count Newsome in based off the last last couple games or whatever, so you're up to 5. He would make 6. That'd be nice for them to have. But yeah, I don't necessarily know if he's an NFL player. We don't really know. I expect him back though.
Yeah, I would think so, and it helps. It would give you that veteran guy. I mean, look, I think they think really highly of Marvin Burks, Philip Roche. Right. I think they like those guys, but you want a guy who's played, and if Charleston and Carlisle are both going to leave, I almost think you've got to hit the portal for a safety in the spring. And I'm not sure that's what they'd want to do. Other than that, though, I mean, look, the only other guy who I guess has another year is Harrison Mevis, and I don't see anything. I don't see any reason that kid's back.
There's nothing for him to come back for, honestly. He definitely rebounded the season, has a couple game winners under his belt. Isn't he the leading scorer in Mizzou history now?
Yeah.
Nothing to come back for, to be honest with you. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So we started this talking about just kind of the wild month for Ryan Day and Eli Drinkwitz and stuff, and they got to change his calendar, Jarod. People that live and work in college football can't do this every December.
Right. So, well, 2 things. Somebody, Freeway Jarod says Mookie Cooper. Yeah, he's another guy who could come back, and who I'm probably leaning towards him. He probably will come back. I think
he'll come back.
Yeah. But as far as what you just said, I seen a tweet yesterday that said, like, basically this week is signing day. Next week, this time next year, it'll be the 12-minute. It'll be the playoff going on right now. So they will definitely actually need to find a way to move this stuff around. Because think about it, we have playoff week, signing day, and this. Oh man, no, that's a lot going on.
Yeah. So look, they pack a lot in, and it's fun every single day, and then you go, hey man, there's 11 other months in the year that we can do some of this stuff. So maybe we can do some of that then. But yeah, I think this will be our last show until Jarod hits Dallas. Drew and I will be in St. Louis for basketball tomorrow night. We're not doing a live show after that, guys. The tip-off's for some reason not till 8:00. I'm not trying to start a live show at 11 in St. Louis on a Friday night, to be honest. So we hope you guys all have a good holiday. Thanks for hanging out with us here. And again, we will be Tuesday through Friday, not Monday. I'm not trying to do a live show on Christmas Day. That's not going to work out. So Tuesday through Friday next week. So I don't know, Jarod, you got anything to say to the people?
We had like 75 stories like this weekend or this week, and then we had like at least 10 today. So definitely go check out basketball, football, recruiting, all that stuff. I just felt like I usually don't do that, but I'm like, we definitely did have a lot of content out this morning. So, guys, check that out.
Yeah. And I will leave you. Trust me, I'm buying a new cable tomorrow. It's been working. It just started not working this week. So I'll get a new one. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Want to remind you one more time, all of our coverage leading up to the bowl game, at the bowl game, is going to be sponsored by Yingling. Highly recommend their products, and get some. They sell it down in Texas for your pregame events, post-game events, whatever. Pick up some Yingling, and appreciate it, guys. We will talk to you next time.